Hello everyone and welcome to DIY Ideas. Today we're making a case for our hot and cold packs with Velcro. So you can put it in and out, so cool it or warm it, whichever you want, and keep it around your body without having to hold it the entire time. So this is everything we're going to need for today. So we have a couple of things here, and some of the basics are fabric scissors, measuring tape, pins. Then, of course, my hand gauge as well, fabric chalk so that we can mark everything, thread in the matching color to your fabric of choice. Then, of course, the fabric itself, and here you can use pretty much anything you want. Just make sure it's something that can withstand heat from your pack, of course. Then, of course, the pack, and that's pretty much all there is to it. So best case, of course, is if you something that you can open up so that you can heat or cool the pack any way you like, and then you can just put it into your little case. That's actually a nice way to keep everything clean and make sure that you can reuse different packs if you need to. Of course, we're going to use our Velcro as well. Here I have some Velcro with some elastic band attached to it. Of course, you can do this on your own and just take your elastic band that you have and Velcro separately and sew them together. So in my case, I already have that prepped, but you can of course take anything you like. So this can be as big or small as you'd like, but I think you can do multiple pieces or one bigger one just so it holds better when you're wearing it. So now I'm first going to explain how to prep the fabric itself for today's project. So we need one front and two back pieces. So of course you're going to take your pack and measure according to the size of the pack. So of course I added some space here for the stitches, as we always do with sewing projects. And then here in the back, this needs to be a little bit different. So you see here, they are a little bit bigger. So what we're gonna do is basically put them one next to each other and then have a lot of space on top and the bottom. So this is really important so that we later have enough room to make this really nice and neat and seam everything so that it looks neat from the outside as well. So that's what we're gonna do later. I'm gonna show you how to do that. So the height here is of course a little bit less than the two pieces together, but that's on purpose here. So you should have something similar as well, because we're gonna have these folded into a little bit narrower bands, and then it's gonna look really, really nice in the end. So optionally, you could do these two pieces the exact same size and then have the opening on top, but I personally prefer to have the opening in the middle on the back. So that way it won't fall out no matter my position in bed, for example. So here are the Velcro pieces that we also need for today's project. So of course you need to cut these out. If you have them unprepped, you can see here they're done in my case, but all that I did is basically take the Velcro and put it onto the elastic band. So I stitched it together to keep it in place. You can see I have a pretty big piece, so that way I can kind of decide how tightly I want it around my waist, for example. So of course you can do smaller pieces, but on different places. That way you can achieve the same effect without using this much Velcro if you have just a little bit. So that's completely up to you. Just make sure that you're satisfied with the result in the end. Of course, you can also buy them pre-made, then they look this way at the store already, or you can take something from an old project or old piece of clothing you already have. So the width here, I adjusted to the band, and I just did a regular straight stitch following the shape of the Velcro. And then we can start. So we're gonna close the Velcro so that the one half with the other, and then we're going to go around like this with our little pack, and that's what we want to get in the end. So I cut everything that I wanted to, and now I can get started with putting it together. Another cool trick when prepping this section of the band with the Velcro is just to fold it a little bit inwards, so the elastic band itself, because then you won't have an open end like on here on the other end. So that way it's going to be a lot neater and you see what it looks like here. And then we're going to do a regular straight stitch across here on the back, and that way we can connect both pieces. So now here are the fabric pieces that we're going to put together. So we're going to take the bigger piece in the back and the two smaller ones in the front. So another trick here is to iron over all of the folds that we're going to do in a minute. That way everything's going to stay in place when we start stitching everything up. Here are some pins that I'm going to be using. And yeah, of course you can choose your own width of this little section that you fold. I'm going to do a little bit more. So you see here what it looks like. Of course you can do more or less depending on how much fabric you have. So now we're going to put both pieces, we're going to fold them like this, and they're going to kind of meet with their folds. So you see here, of course, you can fold it in twice and then have a little bit larger hole on here, or they can meet. It's pretty much up to you and the amount of fabric you have, of course. So I'm just gonna go over this with a warm iron, so not too hot. We just need it to stay in place. And yeah, now we're pretty much ready to go. Of course, you can do an extra stitch there if you'd like, but you don't have to. Okay, so now we can get started with putting everything together. So you see here, I have all of the pieces that we're gonna stitch up. So here is our little base that we're going to be starting with. So of course you don't have to do the Velcro section with the elastic bands. You can just skip that section if you just want a little pocket to keep your pack cleaner, or you can do it with the Velcro, and I'll show you how in case that's what you decide to do. So what we're going to do is fold these like that, so just a little bit over here, so that would be the tightest that it can go. There we go. So now we have to make sure that this section isn't flapping around like this. So what we're going to do is just kind of fold it in half to kind of meet there, so that it's easier to work with, and this stitch right here is clean. And with this stitch, we don't catch anything that we don't want to. And then what we can do in the next step is pretty much use the other two halves that we have for the front and just go over that and then repeat the stitch on the side. If you have a bit more experience or you're really brave today, you can do that at the same time, so as one step, and I'm going to show you how you can do that. So we're pinning everything to keep it in place. Same thing with the other piece. And then you can of course choose if you want the upper piece or the lower piece to be in front. Here, just make sure that the opening is not stitched up, so we want that open, we don't want it closed, and then we're just going to pin this last corner and then we can get started with our sewing machine. So the stitch is going to go like this. We're going to start at one corner, go with a straight stitch across all of the sides, and then we're going to leave a little bit of it open here so that we can turn it inside out later when we're completely done. But of course, since the opening here is on the inside, we don't have to do that. We can just turn it inside out as it is. So that's going to be our opening instead of what we are doing with the hole usually. Another important step is to turn this the wrong way around, so we want to see the insides of the fabric and not the outside, because when we turn it inside out, it'll be the right way around. So before we turn it inside out, I'm just going to cut off the excess fabric on each of the corners. That way it's going to be nice and neat. So I went to the end here with the stitch and then a little bit back just to secure the stitch, and then I continued from that point on downwards. So that's why I can cut into the corner without having to worry, because I did secure the stitch before and afterwards. So here is the done piece now that I've turned it inside out, and we can put our little pack inside. So this is the opening, the little pocket section, and this is what it would look like in the end. So I think it looks really neat. Even though we didn't do any stitches here, it's still neat because we folded it in half before we stitched everything up. And you can see that the Velcro sections are looking really neat as well. So of course, as I said, you can opt to do another stitch on here if your fabric is a little bit thinner or just doesn't keep its shape very well. But I think with this cotton piece, it works pretty fine. So the edge is really nice and straight. Of course, you can do an extra stitch in the step before last if you want everything to be nice there and just stay in place. So yeah, you can see here the shape and the size of the whole thing. So this of course depends on the size and shape of the pack that you have. And yeah, one last thing, of course you can stitch this up completely and just close it up with the pack inside. In that case, just make sure that you don't poke through the pack so that it doesn't pour out the liquid from the inside, but you can close it up, of course, completely if that's something you prefer. So I hope you enjoyed, have a lot of fun, and see you in our next video. Bye!